Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So we're here for another episode of Queering IFS with my fabulous co-host Alessio
Hello.
and our guest Anna Thomas.
Hi. So nice of you to invite me to your beautiful podcast.
Well, it's lovely to have you. So shall we begin with some introductions?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I'll start today. Why not? I'm here. Ready. I'm talking. So I'm Jude. My pronouns are she, they. I am a level 3 certified IFS psychotherapist and approved clinical consultant. I am ADHD and I have a very special interests in neurodivergence and in gender diversity as well, and how we work with that in the therapy room with clients and supervisees. And
Thank you, Jude. Let's see if I can do such a good job like you have and introducing myself. So, I'm Alessio. You can probably hear or see very excited and happy parts of me coming up because of the guest we have today and the work we're doing together. But before my brain goes there, let me introduce myself. I am an IFS trainer, currently at the time of recording an assistant trainer, also an approved clinical consultant, and of course a therapist, an IFS therapist, certified and all the things. I have worked since really day one with the LGBTQ, not AI, IA plus community. And as you can see between, with the AI, IA, that's a bit of my dyslexia coming in place. At times I start calling elbows, knees, and all of that. I'm definitely neurodivergent, still discovering what else is there apart from dyslexia. And I think I'm gonna be quiet for now. So give space to our Anna Thomas. Hello.
Hi. Well, yeah, so nice to be here. And yeah, I work as an IFS practitioner. I'm currently in my level 2 training, IFIO, really loving it. PAing for the first time. So none of the approved yet and none of the certified yet. And I have a PhD in the history of sexuality and gender. So I come from a field of history and very interdisciplinary history, and actually from a field where there are libraries filled with books on the concept of the family. So we might want to one time also queer that concept a little bit, the family as such. And I'm really happy to be here and to be working together in the meantime with Alessio and to be here with you, Jude, because actually that was your session at the IFS conference last year, was why I reached out to Alessio, really feeling I don't want an hour with you. I want days with you. So yeah. Yeah, and maybe nice to know my pronouns are they, them, and I identify as neurospicy. And I'm very aware of my white skin because I raised two biracial daughters. Yeah, maybe that's it for now.
Thank you, Anna Thomas.
Yeah, I just realized I forgot my pronouns. It's he, they. And Jude, I don't know, did you say your pronoun?
I did.
Okay, so I was the only one forgetting. But I wanted to say, like, I'm very jokey today, so you'll have to, audience, you'll have to to kind of be with me on this one. But we kind of noticed we have the whole series of they pronouns go she, they, he, they, them. And I said, well, like Pokemon, we catch them all today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, jokey part, happy
Jokey
that
parts,
this is
welcome.
shared. Yeah, just want to ask Anna Thomas, could you say something more if you want about neurospicy and what that means for you?
Yeah, well, I come from a background where I've always sort of combined my academic and scholarly work with activist work around sex and gender. And yeah, really have been in a field where most of my colleagues and most of the students that I taught were all kind of, or mostly part of the neurominority part of the world, right? Because of the hyper focus that we easily do and yeah, all sorts of aspects that go with neurodiversity. And then I need to do a shout out to my IFS therapist who's in minorities and how majorities impact the world and the lives of minorities. But actually, there's such a lively, I don't know, feel to neurospicy, enjoying it. And yeah, so that opened up a new way for me to look at neurodiversity as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Anna Thomas.
About Anna Thomas and Alessio's upcoming workshop today, among many other things, I am sure. And I'm hearing the journey of that from Alessio and my conference presentation at the 2024 IFS conference where we were talking about neuroqueering. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our audience would love to hear more about that connection.
Right. So I'm going to jump on it because as we've mentioned, Joe, I think Joe has a special place in this workshop, like you have, Jude. I think we've never told you, but of course, this workshop that Anna Thomas and I are creating is called IFS Gender Journey. We call it sometimes workshop, sometimes we call it a retreat. It's kind of 2 days and a half online affinity space for people on a gender journey. And we call for queer people and also for queer adjacent people, for those ones who are deeply involved in a gender journey. And yeah, I really wanted to say explicitly as we're talking about this workshop how Jude, you have contributed to it. We in a way, in spirit, you are with us, because as I said earlier, Anna Thomas came to the conference workshop that we did, Jude and I, on neuroqueering IFS, and I still vaguely remember the first email. It was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anna Thomas, but there was a sense of that you were kind of quite shy in asking, "Oh, can I ask something?" And I was so happy to hear that you had the courage to reach out, and we started that journey.
Yeah, as you're mentioning that, I can feel those shy parts that really felt like, yeah, who am I to? I enjoyed your workshop so much, and I thought this is what is missing for me. But I'm also very aware that I'm a novice in IFS circles, right? So who am I to sort of suggest this idea? And then I thought, well, if I'm not going to reach out, I'm going to be sorry about that. And I don't want to sort of be trapped in a loop of not trying. So yeah, you responded so I don't know, so with such enthusiasm and so welcoming, and that really helped me to sort of do that deep dive as well, because what I bring from let's say my academic background, right, with really this focus around language and how language is never neutral, and how minority people always need to learn the language of majority people, but it's not the other. The way we are raised in a language that doesn't really help us to understand our own systems. So, that is a very philosophical thing I'm saying, but it's also a very lived experience thing, right? Where we as young kids kind of sensed, hey, wow, this is not, somehow this doesn't work for me. And so just to also make that point, Jude, how much you are a part of the IFS gender journey is actually how you walked us through that word excess fatigue. And that made so much sense to me. So, and also to make the point of how important language is. So you said those words, and suddenly I had this, oh my God, yeah, that's a perspective I can work with. Okay, so that's why I feel so drained when, for instance, I visit my biological family. I love them. And sometimes I use that metaphor for, family members who do not understand me, or heterosexual cisgender friends who do not understand me. And this is not for the younger audience because they don't know bars where everybody smokes. But this is sometimes the metaphor I use, that you step into a bar as a non-smoker, everybody's smoking, having a great time, and you're the only one who kind of can't breathe in there. And you need you need an escape. You need to get some fresh air. And that is basically, where I felt it made so much sense to me, excess fatigue. And it's so real.
Right.
And it's becoming, and it's exacerbated right now, right? In the political landscape that we find ourselves in, where actually that bar is more and more for smoking people, or smokers. I don't know if that's the correct English, but it's more and more for smokers, and the non-smoking crowd, is outside and needs to sort of make that decision. Am I going to go in and have the bill as well of having to have my clothes dry cleaned, right? So there's lots of excess fatigue. Makes so much sense because we pay with energy and we pay with right. Not sure if this is making sense, but that inspired us.
I love that analogy. And as you're talking about it now, Anna Thomas, I'm also thinking about, and the other thing is we go into that bar, we are choosing to breathe in smoke that might well make us ill.
Yeah.
And it's that choice again of, what do I do here? Do I ask everyone else to stop smoking and potentially have some backlash from them? Or do I choose to stay out of the bar? Or do I go in there even knowing that it's not even just dry cleaning, it's also my health that might suffer?
Yeah.
To stay in that environment might well make me sick.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is an important point also for, I don't know who will watch this, but younger people to understand themselves that actually your health is on the line, your mental well-being, or your physical well-being. So, So I feel it's really, so that's what I love about creating this affinity space where we really take 2.5 days to slow down and to really sort of track all those moments. That's why the focus is disenfranchised grief for these first 2.5 days, where you didn't even know maybe that you were grieving about something that was unattainable or impossible, or you experience something but you cannot share it because maybe you'll get backlash, or you'll be ridiculed, or you'll be violated, even worse, around being open about your feelings. So really giving people, queer people, an opportunity to slow down around all those moments of, excess fatigue, disenfranchised grief, and really sort of honor those moments and also celebrate the resistance, right? Because we're still here. And I see joking parts and I see beautiful people. right? So we're still here. So also really celebrating the resilience of queer people.
And I want to jump in here to just to put even some more focus on what is it that we mean by the metaphor of the smoke, which is the gender binary. This is what we are focusing on. We are discovering that it's almost in the air that we breathe, like the smoke, and that in a way, in a place where people smoke, we almost have this sense of there is the place where people smoke and we can decide whether we enter in it or not. But for many people, this isn't even an option. You are always, in a way, in this metaphor, breathing the smoke generated from our perspective, from the gender binary, from a very specific way that's imposed by society and that therefore creates a constraint to anybody who lives through it. And because we can't really escape gender, all of us have been impacted by the fact that the world says you're either a boy or a girl, you're either male or female. And I notice it. I have like a little niece, and I see her every 6 months, and she started to ask questions like, are you a boy or a girl? She didn't ask them before, but I can see the binary has already reached her system. It's already there. It's from before birth. The majority of people I ask or know about me becoming an uncle, the first thing that gets asked is usually,
boy or a girl?
Is it a boy or a girl? So it's big. And I think part in this workshop, the invitation will be to workshop retreat, we call it either way, to explore how much of that smoke have we been breathing, because we might not even be aware of it.
Yeah. And I feel, there's a finger out.
Jude's got a finger up.
For anyone who's listening to this and has never watched the video, we do reference this a lot. So I feel like I should explain. Sometimes when one of us has a point, it feels like one of our fingers kind of take a life of their own and start pointing out. I feel like I just want to say that, keeping with the smoke metaphor, the smokers in the bar are also getting sick. The people who are smoking, the gender binary hurts everybody, even if you are cisgender, heterosexual, in a heteronormative relationship, it still hurts. The gender binary there's so many words I want to say and I can't find the right one, but domestic violence rates, patriarchy, women's rights being systematically erased, this is all connected. So it's not, and we're focusing on where we are today in terms of queering and queerness, but I also just want to say that it hurts everyone.
It does. And if I may follow up, I can say something. Yeah, here's my finger. But so what you are saying makes so much sense, because in a way, what I sometimes feel, now that I'm sort of entering this field of psychologists, right? And I come from a background where we look at intergenerational, over centuries, right? So broad perspective. What we see is that actually that gender binary is a product of a patriarchal order of industrial times. So the family, the unit, that nuclear family unit of mother, father, children, was engineered in that phase, in that historical phase. It's not the natural ecology for the humankind necessarily. It's a very mobile unit that can travel where the work is. And sometimes I feel that isn't taken into account what is the family unit even, right? But it ties in with how gender is reproduced. And we know that Europe colonizing other regions of the world also introduced that gender binary where there was no gender binary. And so I'm noticing these excited parts, and so you have to stop me because I'll start lecturing and teaching. But
no one is going to stop you here.
Yeah, we're learning. We love it.
Go on.
But anyway, so sometimes I feel that psychology is a field that started looking at the moment. So the field developed in the same era, right? So to psychologists, that family unit seemed like this universal truth, but actually it's a cultural arrangement from a very specific time. And and the beauty of that unit is it's super exploitable because it's disconnected from community and it's you can exploit it easily. So, this is dropping a bomb, maybe in IFS family systems world, but let's go down around it. Yeah, I see your finger, Alessio.
Get it up. Because, I remember what's coming to mind is the terminology that almost like weaponizing the idea of family against any deviation from, and from family. And now we have terms like traditional family. And the finger came up because I remember when I was still in Italy, it was one of my final years in Italy. One of the reasons why I emigrated is mainly because how unfriendly Italy is in my experience, for my diversities, my LGBT diversities. And I remember they used to be called Gay Pride back then in Rome. And one year they organized a counter. Help me with the word, was like march called Family Day.
Right.
So they used the concept of family, which is obviously perpetrated by mainly the religious, and political forces, and they frame any diversity, even if you just don't even want to have a particular family the way that even if you're just doing a gay pride just because you just like to sleep with someone that isn't as you're prescribed to do, but it's framed easily as a danger to this very treasured concept that, as you and Thomas are reminding us, is a product of colonialism, of industrial Western society, and psychology is a byproduct of all of it. So that's what we need to queer it. That's what we're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, beautiful point. And also to sort of to follow up on what you're saying, right? These marches and how that might make us feel unsafe and threaten ourselves, right, as queer folks.
Yes.
In my personal journey, I grew up in a very family-oriented, very big family, a Catholic family in a Protestant country. So I didn't even know the Netherlands wasn't Catholic until I was 18. So that type of Catholic background. And I remember my cousin saying to me, if you choose to be gay, you can't have children. You're not allowed to have children.
If you choose to be gay.
If you choose to be gay, you can't have children. And I know, looking back, that they really didn't mean harm. That was really something they were, raised with, and this was their perspective. So it wasn't, ill-intended, but oh my God, how that has impacted my system, because I knew one thing as a young kid. I wanted to become a mother. a parent, I'm not sure. And becoming a mother, I discovered after, giving birth to my first child, I thought, that's weird. I still don't feel like a woman. This is the most female thing I could do. And I still don't feel like a woman. And then I didn't have the language around non-binary identities yet, right? So that in itself is sort of my journey around disenfranchised grief, feeling so alone and so confused and not understanding myself and really feeling like I'm a very defective person, apparently. All the while, because I was in the smoke. But so beautiful point, actually. Not everybody gets out of the bar and gets out of the smoke.
Yeah.
But I got, I found ways to sort of have this broader space where I could actually breathe. And really, my level 1 training, where Alessio was still PAing back then, and the way you were present as a non-binary person and sort of were this visible, beautiful person in the space, really helped me sort of, take my own system very seriously and really take my own trailheads very seriously without doubting it. My trailheads were misinformed or weird but they're mine because to a certain extent they're non-binary trailheads, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
So much to say, but thank you, Anna Thomas. But I want to give Jude some space in case, because I know I can jump in. I've got quite a few things to say. Just check in whether there is anything on
that's
your
very
mind.
kind of you. I'm just sitting here having a lovely time, and well, I will share this actually. Will I? Ooh, I've started. What's coming up for me and what's come up for me every time I've thought about your Gender Journeys retreat/workshop is an experience I had when I was really young, and I was standing by, my dad was fixing a car, and I was standing by him, and I was asking a question, and I must have been really young. I must have been maybe 6. And it was a what am I kind of question. And I don't remember exactly what I asked. And he was trying to understand me, but I don't. And I remember him saying, "Oh, we don't mind if you're gay." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice." But that's not what I was asking. But it's the thing about not having the language. Because when I grew up in the UK, there was a law that meant that you couldn't promote homosexuality in schools. I can't, section something, I've forgotten the name, but it meant that, teachers couldn't talk about any kind, queerness wasn't allowed. It was erased, so you can imagine, you have this sense of like, I don't know what this is, and I have no language for it. And it was, it's great that my dad said, we don't mind if you're gay. I mean, okay, it's the 80s. He was doing his best. But I was like, great. I don't think that's what I'm asking. And so that's what's just been around for me as we're talking. That sense of like how important the language and the visibility is. Yeah, because I always had that thing of like, well, I don't think I'm gay. I don't think I'm straight. I don't know what that means. But that was it. That's as far as I could get until culture around me changed. And I was like, oh, there's words for this. Anyway, you gave me space. I took it.
I have goosebumps. Thank you, Jude. Thank you. Just and I mean, I could speak for hours around all the trailheads I have. There isn't just one finger here. There's 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. I don't know how many things I'll say, but first I want to say, getting back to the metaphor of the smoke, that what we are doing, even here in this moment, ending with the retreat and with every episode of this podcast, really, we are creating a space outside of the space with the smoke. We are attempting at creating what doesn't exist through language, or through even just realizing that something is intoxicating us of the status quo. Because otherwise you're trapped. Like what you said, Jude, you do not have a language, as you say, Anna Thomas, do not have a frame of reference. Basically, if we think about IFS internally, there isn't a space, even internally, for that specific diversity to exist. So even if this is, inverted commas, just a podcast, but if people listen to this and start creating within themselves space for their diversities, we are achieving something very important, very meaningful.
Yeah.
So that's the first piece. And I've got more pieces that I want to share. One is about how our conversations developed, Anna Thomas, which was upon reflection of how certain aspects of the IFS work, especially the legacy work, kind of introduced an element of what Jude has introduced, access fatigue. Because whenever I'm invited to think generationally, somehow I need to filter through what usually is the male and female line. Is it given for granted that when you connect to your ancestors, then you've got to go down the binary. And I noticed parts of me that had to be taken care of for me to access then the wisdom presented to me. I don't have it figured out yet. Maybe that needs another workshop on their own, because we're thinking about the journey movement of this life. Imagine connecting to the journey before life. And I don't know, Anna Thomas might have something in the retreat about it. I don't remember right now. But it is a big issue in a way, because this is so embedded in everything we do that it's always there. And it's always been theorized in psychological books like that. So I look back at my ancestors and I see homophobic people. That's what I see.
Right. Yeah.
Which then links me to the final piece I want to say, which is linked to what you shared, Jude, that I believe most often than not, what we call homophobia is actually gender expression phobia. So what, and this is very political at the minute, because we just had a ruling at the time of this recording from the UK High Court of Justice that equates gender identity, if I'm correct, to sex assigned at birth. So it's in a way putting...
It's around the definition of biological woman, to use their wording.
So it's defining an even stronger link from a legal perspective between gender and sex. And I think these two topics are rather too much intertwined, and we grow up and people think that any form of gender nonconformity is a form of is a sexual preference. So I don't know, Jude, how old you were when your dad said to you, are you gay or not? But maybe sexuality was nowhere near your brain.
Right, no, exactly, it wasn't.
Right?
But he was trying to understand me through the only frame of reference he had, which was...
Exactly.
Well, here's my daughter and she's asking me some stuff about identity that I don't quite understand. So I'm going to just let her know that she can be gay if she wants, because I guess that's what she's asking. And me going, I don't know what I'm asking.
It's not about who I sleep with.
I'm 6.
It is a form of, in a way, if you look at it from a neuro, like heteronormative perspective, it's about talking about sex to a child before they even think about sex. Because you're telling someone who hasn't even started to consider sex, oh, well, it's okay if your sexuality is this point, why do you even speak about sexuality to a young child? But that is probably what upsets society the most, is someone, for example, with a male body who expresses themselves in a non-conforming way to what a man should walk with. And that gets confused with who I like to sleep with. And it's two separate things. So a lot coming out of this.
Yeah, but actually, it makes total sense to me, especially with your example, Jude, of, this young questioning person. And yeah, of course, I also hear that you really understand that your father didn't have the language or the tools to facilitate you in that moment. And I think what you're saying, Alessio, about, let's say, spirituality, working with ancestors and legacy burdens, I feel that the language that we have in the IFS world is too gendered to work with spirituality and to really allow connection with ancestors. Let's bring in transcestors then. But
beautiful.
right, but there probably are transcestors. But yeah, so if gender in certain cultures are at least five genders, then our way of working with ancestors, it just doesn't, it's constrained.
Yeah, and I just the joke that needs to come out of my mouth, like, let's see what the law says about it. Can I have a trans sister, or is that also not allowed?
Yeah, and somehow I feel I need to make another big point about my white skin. So my white skin, I started noticing it as I began to sort of slow down around what racism does to people. And, having white privilege, I came late to the party of understanding racism. And I feel that a lot of cisgender people or heterosexual people, especially, if that's combined in your system, you're kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say late to the party because I'm not here to sort of shame people for not having those trailheads, but I really feel that the field does need an update around how important it is to start also understanding how that dominant culture is also impacting you. Probably if you're cisgender and if you're heterosexual, you are impacted by all the smoke, as you pointed out. And I think we're at the beginning maybe of having a profound discussion around this, also in that IFS community that I love being a part of in the meantime.
That's my IFS finger coming up, because I think a concept that might be useful to think about, and I know that we're coming towards the final 5 minutes today, is that, even if, maybe the smoke isn't the perfect metaphor, it never exists. Because for cisgender heterosexual people, it might not be toxic. The binary might not be, I'd say might, who knows? But definitely, we propagate the burdens that we have. So, like with white skin, I'm also white skinned. I came late to appreciating that, and I think biggest learning for me is to understand how I might propagate some racism, and I might do it just for my presence as a white-skinned person. So that piece of awareness, I think it's important for anybody to have in whatever field, we participate. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
And there's something in everything that we're talking about which is just so important, which is around, we're all here talking and we're using IFS and we all love IFS. And I guess I just want to really speak to, it's a fantastic model, and it's groundbreaking, and it can be life-changing. And without cultural awareness, without cultural competence, without us working on these things within ourselves, like we're all sitting here in white bodies and we all have that privilege in different ways, without addressing that, around gender, around any kind of difference and diversity, it's not, IFS alone isn't enough. We have to have competency and awareness in all of these ways in which we are different, so that we can not propagate burdens, not repeat things. Yeah. I want to say so much, but we are coming to the end, so I'm sort of containing myself, but I just wanted to say that piece, which feels really important.
Yeah. But we also need to feel felt, and we also need to feel understood. And
Yes.
I really feel that the retreat will help the systems really also feel felt and feel understood, and even maybe in certain elements start understanding your own system for the first time. I'm not sure, Alessio, if you would agree with this, but that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will add more links and information to all the platforms where this podcast is going to go into. And Thomas, you've also created a couple of short, beautiful videos that
we can link
explain,
to those too.
that explain a bit more about. One of them is, I think, Disenfranchised Grief, isn't it? And the other one is about the different journeys, the 4 beautiful gender journeys that we have identified, which I never remember what they are. That's dyslexia central. But if you do, another us.
So, but maybe to fit it into this, so that we're the prescribed journey, the hidden journey, the desired journey, and the missing journeys.
Yeah.
So, right? And what I love about Jude's example is that's a child who is in this garage and is on some sort of journey and isn't felt and isn't seen, and something important happened in that moment. And that certain moments, that's what we will help, have space for.
There was, it was an example of a missed journey. There wasn't a space for that.
Yeah, which was then missed for another, 20 years after that as well. Right.
Yeah.
So we'll put the links to the workshop and the videos and everything in the show notes. But maybe just for people listening now, just so they have an idea, when is it? When are the dates of your workshop?
So it's June 2025. I think it's 19th to 21st.
Yeah. Thursday 19th to Saturday 21st of June.
Yes. And there might be, I'm sure there will be future events and workshops spinning, as a spin-off. So maybe after the workshop is gone, or once it's sold out, we still have a couple of spaces available, but we might put a more generic link where people can be updated as to future projects.
And if people want to find out more about you, Anna Thomas?
Yeah, I do have a website.
Where should they go?
They could go to my website, and actually you could also go to Alessio's website, because there is the whole page on IFS Gender Journeys there.
But if people want to contact just you, how do they do it?
Then there is this Dutch site, and in English it's authenticpractices.nl. But I'll share the link, because
the link will be there. Yes,
Dutch
in the show
URL.
notes.
Yeah.
And of course, Alessio, how can people get hold of you?
My website, therapywithalessio.com. It's there where you'll find the page for IFS Gender Journey and many more things, links to these podcasts and YouTube videos, etc. And what about you, Jude?
And as with Anna Thomas, you can also find me through Alessio's website and the work we've done together. But I do have my own, which is anchoredinself.co.uk. And the other thing on your website, Alessio, is the neuroqueering principles. So we spoke about the conference just now. So just if anyone's wanting to look back to that, and we'll do an episode on that at some point too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've got a list of episodes, haven't we?
We have a list. We'll be busy for a while. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. What a beautiful space it's been. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
This is my first time meeting you, Anna Thomas, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm really excited for your workshop. And thank you so much for sharing yourself and your wisdom with us today.
I was so happy to. So thank you for the invitation.
Alessio, thank you for your joker parts. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been lovely being here. Thank you so much.
Until next time.
See you all next time. Bye.
Bye.